So you've been a model agent for 12 years. How did you get into the modeling industry? Like what were the steps or what happened?
Actually, I had family members that were models in the 80s, and I just kind of always had an interest. And when I moved to LA, I actually started at Elite as a receptionist and worked my way through.
You're kidding.
No.
Like, did you take that job in hopes that you would like move up into being a booker? And
yeah, that was the goal. I kind of knew that was the outcome because I knew I always had an eye. Just because I had taken photography and I knew how to scout.
Right.
It's just a matter of just getting in and working your way to prove it to other people who, in the powers that be.
Right.
And it worked.
Yeah. Also, like when I think of you, I think that you have this great eye. So you must love to scout and find new talent and develop new talent. Is that?
Yeah, that's what I think keeps it fresh and interesting because year after year it can get a little much. But it's always at all agencies. It's about who's coming through the ranks and what's the future. And developing and creating for me is the most exciting part. But also for the agency, their most important part is the money. So being able to balance both, not only for the model's career, but for the growth of the agency.
Right. So obviously, when you get a new face, you have to have them tested a lot. You have to build up their book. You have to give them experience in front of the camera. So you would put them together with a testing photographer.
Yep.
And a lot of the testing photographers in the beginning are like, well, you're going to try to get the new face tested with as many photographers across the board as you can. The successful ones that are working all the time and shooting editorial all the time, and then you just need to fill their books up and get them experience. So you put them in with new photographers. And you must get quite a few emails from new photographers and kids wanting to test all the time.
Yeah, it's very hard because, again, being somebody who worked themselves up, I'm always trying to support the new batch that's coming through. But when I've developed people, I've always tried to, again, restrict the images going out because I kind of don't like, every photographer in town walking around with, somebody's special image in their book, because also the same clients I'm trying to promote the model to, so are the photographers.
Right.
So typically what I do is when I know I've got somebody special, if they can, work with a special photographer like yourself, I email the photographer to be like, what do you think? Is it somebody you like? And try to get them exposed so that way they're being trained in the right way.
Right.
Because also when I'm trying to train a testing photographer, they're still learning.
Right.
Which could give the model bad habits or maybe not give them the right, intro to the business.
Right.
Where also, when somebody's starting off, they don't realize that, okay, maybe you can't do sheer on a model because even though they look like they're older, they're typically 15 and 16 years old.
Right.
So I know that a seasoned photographer isn't going to go through those situations.
Right.
They're gonna be cool with a mom being around. They're gonna be okay, with the restrictions of working with somebody young.
Right. They're not going to try to push the envelope and do like subtle nudity or half nude or even full nude and all that.
Yeah.
And do you find that some of the new photographers try to push that envelope right away?
Of course.
Yeah.
Every photographer does.
Yeah.
It's okay if the girl's comfortable with it, but really for me, nudes, unless it's an editorial, there's no need for it. It's not gonna, when I'm trying to go after a high-end client, they don't want to see somebody's boobs or,
Right.
Anything they can show. I've seen it all.
Yeah.
They want to see models that are either, showing beauty or showing natural or, if they're going to do fashion, nice clean fashion, not drag queeny fashion where it's overmade, unless it's, an editorial with the right photographer.
Right.
There's a balance between good and bad.
Right.
And that's what I'm always trying to, weed out.
Right.
And also I'm also the type of person, I know photographers are artists. I was a photographer. I don't want to tell somebody how to shoot. It's either you shoot the way we like or we don't, no hard feelings, you move on. Or, you adjust to the way the business is. And, that's typically what happens. But again, ego comes into play and they don't understand that, you're also learning and you've got to do what the agency needs if you want to get in with them, because down the road, when you need somebody to back you up, the agency's there.
Right.
So for us, we always want to work with new people and whatever, but their work really is what we're basing their future work off of.
Okay.
So if they just have one style in their book, it could totally, knock them out of the running for what we're looking for.
Sure.
And for promotion, as far as testing is concerned, Typically it's always free testing, so everybody's coming into the mix. Hair wants their situation, makeup wants their situation, the photographer wants their situation.
Right.
The only person who typically doesn't get anything out of it's the model.
Right.
Because they're overmade,
Yes.
they don't look like themselves.
Right.
So for us, I always say, when you're starting off, shoot the model natural, clean, simple, and then build up so everybody can get what they need out of it.
Right.
Because nothing's worse for me than to have to edit film that I don't like, or tell the model they didn't get anything from
Yeah, you
it,
can't
and
use.
tell the photographer I don't like their work.
Right.
Anybody can shoot a beautiful person or an editorial model simply on a blank wall. We don't need,
You don't need the high
feathers and glitter and
Right, right,
backdrops. It's for us it's very clean, simple for our clients to read. Because the moment the model's made up, we've kind of already made up the decision for that client as what direction they could use the model for.
Oh, yeah.
We always say the blank canvas. That's why even now everybody wants to see Polaroids in video. They want to see what does the model look like,
Right.
not what can they be made up into.
Right. Because that's somebody else's vision anyways,
Yeah.
and then it's hard with clients. I mean, from my end as a photographer, sometimes clients really don't know what they're looking for. You kind of have to lead them and show them what they're looking for,
Yeah.
and the same must be with booking models as well. You got to show them the blank canvas.
Definitely.
Yeah, I get that.
And like I said, what I'm realizing right now is there's an influx of people who don't really know the business. They haven't been in it long enough to know. So everybody's it's like the emperor's new clothes. It's like, oh, well, if that's great, then yeah, we're going to do that.
Right.
That's not necessarily how it works.
Right.
And I can tell even when I'm talking to a client if they know what they're doing.
Right.
I have many times where I know one particular time that sticks out in my mind that they're looking for blondes. They need a blonde, need a blonde, need a blonde. Well, they end up booking the blackest girl I had. And I'm like, how do you go from needing a blonde to booking, the really black girl with the short hair that's the extreme opposite?
Right.
Because they don't know.
Yeah.
And that time sometimes comes into the mix of, dealing with casting directors, with the photographer, because at the end of the day, it's the client's final decision.
Right.
And we know that half the clients are sometimes in the Midwest, they don't get
Yeah.
editorial. They
Sure.
don't get this or that. But if
Right.
it's interesting, they'll bite.
Yeah. How do new photographers, young photographers contact you? They call? They email? How do they do it? They show up?
I've had it all.
Yeah.
Even last week, I had somebody just walk in. I'm testing. It's like, I'm trying to eat my lunch at my desk. It's noon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you have an appointment? Did you make an appointment with somebody? And he's like, no. And I'm like, it's lunchtime.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't contact agencies between 12 and 2. They're trying to eat.
Yeah.
Email, call. Again, every agency wants to work with a new photographer.
Right.
But if the work isn't up to par, the door will be closed.
So kind of what I'm hearing is you'll give somebody a shot.
Yeah.
And you'll tell them really what you need out of the test, and if they don't deliver, you probably won't try them again.
It depends.
Right.
It depends if we're vibing.
Okay.
If they come in here with the attitude that they're the best thing, then it's like, no. But if they come in saying, hey, I want to learn, can you help me out? What do you need? Versus, making my job more difficult. I don't want to spend hours trying to teach somebody their job.
Yeah.
Because,
You don't have time.
I don't have time. I'm not getting anything from it.
And you have more
Ultimately.
photographers that are waiting there to test. I mean, it's not like there's a dry spell of photographers trying to.
For me, there is a huge dry spell of good photographers.
Oh, yeah.
There's 50 million of them, and it's like, well, who's going to come through the ranking? Who's going to do it?
Right.
It's going to be the one who's open and eager and wants to do it and wants to be molded versus, saying this is what I do, take it or leave it.
And you find a lot of that?
Yeah.
The ego?
Yeah.
Wow. Even with the young kids?
Yeah.
Wow. They'll learn.
Yeah, they'll learn. And then I feel like an asshole because,
Yeah.
I'm cool. It's like, do this, do this, do this within what they do, but then they come back with the stuff I said don't do, and it's like,
Well,
okay.
yeah. I mean, if they did that to a client, they won't work again.
No,
So, I mean, they got to
exactly.
learn, Do you find a huge majority of them are relying too heavily on Photoshop, which,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No one wants to see Photoshop unless it's a beauty campaign.
Yeah.
There are things that can
can
be
enhance
done
thing, yeah.
because you never know what type of model you're going to get, especially if you haven't seen the model before.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're doing a test, there's no casting involved. It's not worth the model's time because for them to drive in from wherever they're living, because most of them don't live in LA.
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of get what you get. So the girl could show up with some roots. They could have bad skin. They could have been out partying the night before. They're bloated. So that's where you learn how to make it work.
Yeah.
And you try to make it work on set versus having to do it in post.
Right.
Because once it starts looking plastic or fake or whatever, the shots are being ruined.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm noticing now. Everybody thinks, oh, I'll just color correct, or I'll just turn it black and white, or I'll do this or that. It doesn't always work.
Right. Or they'll skinny them. You see overly skinnied up now. And
Liquify. Everybody loves Liquify.
Yeah. But that's not a true representation of the girl either. I mean, you can't use a bunch of pictures from a test where she's 2 sizes smaller than what she really is either, can you?
No.
I mean, there's a fine line, but I mean.
This is where advertising has its, hold on what people think.
That's true.
We go back to, well, if this client can, stretch the model and make them look emaciated with a big head, and that's what they want, I'm going to do it.
Right.
Well, it doesn't work.
No. Right.
Nobody, and also it's also the agent. You want to have that relationship with the agent to be honest and be like, you know what, her hips are big right now, or she's going through a skin issue. Where some agents are just like happy to get the model shot, and the photographer's stuck with who knows what. So, that's where you want to build the relationship with your agent of who you're working with and have them, guide you and listen. And, again, I'm not the agent to be like, I want you to shoot this. Yeah. Because again, I want that stronger editorial thing because I'm trying to appeal to Paris, Milan, London.
Right.
So it's not necessarily that, lovely Hollywood sign in the background or on the beach.
Running on the beach. Yeah.
I've seen it.
Stuff.
Right. It's not what I'm going to go after with my clients. Mm-hmm. But again, another agent, that might be what they're looking for. So being able to have that versatility, but then maintaining your style or, your aesthetic.
I'm only thinking it from my perspective, but then I just realized, like, if you put a girl together and she's wasting her time, then she drove out from the desert 2 hours to drive out and shoot with this photographer, and she gets nothing out of it, or he mistreats her. They're going to scream at you.
Of course, that happens. I'm like, I come back, I see the film, and the thing, I don't want to see 500 shots. I don't. Yeah. So I want to pre-edit. I want to see what's already been edited. I don't want to see it retouched because then I don't necessarily trust. So I'll want to see everything, but I want to see what you've selected.
Right.
Because if I don't see in your select, then I'll go through and fish through the other stuff.
Yeah.
Because I want the model to get images because it does cost them money, even though it's free and you're taking your time, it's costing everybody something.
Yeah.
And for the most part, if the photographer is not educated enough to know, chin up, chin down, squint, turn the eye, the angles.
Yeah.
They might use the picture because they think it's great in their book, and no one wants to tell them it's not.
Right.
But on the modeling side, it was like, oh, it's shit, because she's already got whatever she needs in the book.
Right.
So that's also where the photographers have to rely on the magazines to see what's being done. Not necessarily how is it styled and what great makeup can be put on the model, but what angles work. Not just like, oh, I have a beautiful girl and I'm a straight male, and so any shot I get of her is going to be beautiful.
Right.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
I don't like to label, but I notice the straight guys really, they want to see sexy women.
Yeah.
The agency doesn't want to see sexy.
Right.
It doesn't really sell unless we're going after lingerie.
Right.
And what I've noticed for the most part, I love female photographers. They get it. They know what it is to be a woman. They know that they don't have to cake on all this makeup.
Right.
And even my gay photographers, they love to go above and beyond because they've seen it on America's Next Top Model.
Right.
I don't want to see a tarantula on the face.
Right.
It does nothing. If it's a job and that's what the client wants and the model's getting paid, or it's a story in a magazine, cool.
Right.
Because then we have the text showing that this is an actual job versus a test.
Yeah. Now that's kind of one of my gripes too. Like, there's so many straight men that are young that are wanting to become fashion photographers, and you're like, why? Who was Chanel? Hey, who? Like, what was her first name? Like, they don't know anything about fashion, and that's what my job is. It's about photographing the clothes. It's the product. I have to make the clothing look good, and the model is the catalyst to make it look good, and the whole team has to work in this whole, and they want to get laid. I mean, a lot of it is they're motivated by that.
No, definitely, and that's where it comes into sheer, take off the top, cover the titties. Like, it's fine if it's Sports Illustrated or a Pirelli calendar.
Yeah.
It makes sense. There's a reason for that, and the model is also getting something from it.
Right.
What I'm also noticing is that these photographers, they don't realize they're in charge of that set. Mm-hmm. So if hair is too much or they don't like the styling, say no. Enough, it's like you're also, responsible for everything that goes on. It's not just because, it's makeup and that's what they need to do.
Right.
If it's too heavy, send them back to the chair, take it off.
Right.
Because I notice in, the photographer, hair was doing this or makeup was, hey, you're the director.
Right.
Get it done. I don't hear the excuses. I'm like, and other things that bother me, you see flyaways or look through the lens, see what you're shooting. Don't take 500 shots. Set up the shot, shoot it, and have it right. So it's not having to be retouched down the road.
Right.
If you see there's something in the nose or the hairs over the eye or there's strays or whatever, get it before you shoot it. It saves you time and effort in the long run.
Right.
It really does.
Yeah. So how, like if a photographer's been working consistently and producing really good results, is there a level that they can start charging, like that paid test thing?
It depends. Every agency is different.
Okay.
When you go to the bigger agencies, meaning those that have the models that you want to shoot, for the most part, they're probably not going to do any paid testing.
Okay.
I only pay for my good photographers because I know what I'm going to get.
Right.
If we are working with somebody, we do like their work, we'll throw them a bone. We're not here to take advantage of anybody,
right.
but also now there's so many photographers, everybody wants to shoot a girl. It's kind of going back to where it was, 20, 30 years ago, when, there were so many photographers, the girls didn't need to pay for testing.
Right.
Then there was this, spot where there weren't enough photographers, so to get somebody to shoot, you had to give them some money to, get the materials.
Right.
We're kind of going back to that, to where the photographer's like, I'll shoot them for free, I'll shoot them for free.
Right.
But my thing, I don't care how much the test costs, as long as I know what I'm gonna get.
Right.
And, I've kind of been labeled in this town to only work with one photographer with paid testing. I don't have to question it. I know that the pictures that I'm going to get for that are going to work in every market, and it's going to open up the clients for me to help move them into a career.
Right.
Not just, pay the photographer, they got their money and they throw a disc at us.
Yeah,
It doesn't work,
yeah.
I'm like, I've got, once that test's done, I've got to go through and do all the other work. So, it just depends, and test range depends between like $200 to, or something.
Right.
But now with digital, it's like, there's no cost like there used to be when we had to do film and proof sheets, and
Right.
That's when we had to come with all these other costs to cover.
Right.
Now it's
Right.
like if you're building your book, you kind of have to work through it like we all did.
I was just remembering, I used to get a roll rate when I was starting out. It was like $75 a roll. Remember
Yeah,
that? Like,
yeah.
that just dawned on me. It's been a while. I haven't done a paid test in forever.
Yeah, again, for me, models make good money. Models get a tax write-off for their tests. So for us, it's, if there's somebody that we like, and we'd also don't want them starving. We want them to be loyal to us. But that's another thing is, Mike, I also don't like photographers going around the city shooting the same thing for every agency. Like, it just waters down the image of our board. So, that's the other thing. We try to keep our photographers to our agency, and therefore making sure that they're being connected not only with some test money, but also maybe with a client, or doing a lookbook to help move their careers along as well.
Right.
Because who knows who's going to end up where, and having that relationship built, if they are shooting Italian Vogue in 15 years or whatever,
Right.
they're going to be loyal back to us.
Right.
So it's very important.
Yeah. I heard a photographer talk once, and actually he's a pretty established guy, and was kind of blown away. His whole attitude about models was, he needed to break them down to build them back up, and he was sort of proud when he would make them cry so he could get them to emote, and I was kind of like completely put off by that. Do you have experiences with that? And
yeah, and I kind of run on the border of that situation because nobody's wants to be abused in any situation. We may be talking about the same person.
Yeah.
But sometimes people do need to be put in check. I'm like, this is a job, and if you are screwing up a shot, a photographer's going to yell. Right. Some do. And if you haven't been shown that, and you just think it's about pretty and being in front of the camera, you're going to break down, and that can't happen either on set. Right. So sometimes for me, I like the photographers to kind of give it to the model a bit, because I need them to get something more than just, a little simple pose. And maybe it is, getting them to the verge of tears to get emotion out of their face, especially if they're a new face. They don't know how to move. The photographer's got to get it out of them.
Wow.
They're also learning. So maybe if the photographer does yell or do a little something, it may get them to click in.
Okay. And you've like had a girl come back to you and like, he made me cry, and you're well,
And I explained them. But with this one particular photographer, I do say, if you can make it through this test with this photographer, you can make it in this business. Right. If you have any reservations, you may want to figure this out. Yeah. I'm like, because not everybody's going to think you're pretty, and someone's going to say, you know what, you need to lose a bit. Maybe they did pull, a Chanel outfit those sizes are a lot different than American sizes. So, you know, it's a matter of being able to maintain and kind of gone through the ringer, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that way when that comes around and they've got to pin you,
Yeah.
instead of actually like zipping it up, you can't let it affect you, because now you've got to go on set and kind of let those things go to the wayside.
That's right, yeah. And leave your personal life at the door too,
Yeah.
and all that.
But to answer the question, you know, again, I don't want to hear somebody yelled or screamed or did any of that. By understanding when it could happen, but it also will come back to me, and then, you know, I get it from both people, the photographer and the model.
Right.
And then I've got to kind of be the judge, and, you know,
Yeah.
this is in high school. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, if I got the shot, then I got the shot. If I didn't, or if I know, you know, he tried to make the moves, or, you know, whatever the situation is, it doesn't work for me. And like the moment I see, you know, pubes or butt, I just, no, it does. It's
Really?
not going to do nothing.
Yeah.
And I see it. You know, I know that there are those photographers that do that, and there's a spot for it, but you've got to be established to kind of get away with that.
Right.
But if you're not, and you're just doing it for your pleasure, it doesn't work. And there are those photographers in town that are notorious for doing that don't have the career, and the agencies just don't work with them.
Yeah. They learn real fast though. I mean,
And the thing is, I'm friends with every agent in town.
Yeah.
So we all talk and we share, and, you know, I don't want to say we blackball anybody, but, you know, if we know that there's a casting director or somebody, photographer on set that's going to, you know, put them on in a bad situation, we do give everybody a heads up. You know, this guy's doing this, or, you know, we paid for the test, we never got anything. Agencies now aren't paying until they actually physically get the materials in front of them.
So at what point is a photographer ready to approach you? I mean, like, how much do you want should be in their book, or like a couple of good solid tests, consistency? Can it be like different pictures? Because like a lot of photographers will start to shoot stories, editorial, because they think they need to be published right away.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you look for? When are they ready?
It just depends. You never know
Yeah.
who's going to come in and actually have the talent. You know, it could be their first test and it looks amazing. It could take multiple tests. So depending, you know, if they contact the agency and we look and we see that the materials aren't what we're looking for, we'll say, hey, maybe go, you know, shoot at another agency or shoot some other people and come back and show us your materials. So we're open, but if we don't see it right away, we'll kind of say, hey, you know, come back once you've got a bit more in your book, or if you can shoot more of this because you've shot too much of that. Again, because we don't want to necessarily put them in the box.
Right.
So it just really depends.
And do you open most emails then when they send you, or call? You take most calls? You not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, because
You want to see.
Yeah,
See
you know,
who's out
it's
there.
like finding a model. You never know.
Right.
You know, and because again, I started kind of on the lower side of the totem pole.
Right.
I know it takes somebody to start, and you never know who is going to be the next photographer or the stylist, and it could be the assistant on set, or, you know. So for me, I always try to be cool with everybody.
Yeah.
But the moment they do something that's wrong, then you get the wrath of James.
Right.
Yeah.